Today, July 27th, is National Korean War Armistice Day, where we remember the end of the Korean War and we honor Korean War veterans. A couple of years ago, right after, literally like 2 weeks after he became the president of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, I had the privilege of interviewing Archbishop Timothy Broglio. But we spent most of our time talking about the military, because you see, he's also the Archbishop of the military diocese, which makes him my daughter and my son-in-law's bishop, because my son-in-law serves in the Army. And he told me about the bravery and the heroic acts of so many military chaplains. And you know, there's 9 military chaplains who have received the Medal of Honor. 5 were Catholic priests, 4 were Protestant pastors. So today, I'd just like to take the time to talk about one of these Medal of Honors, Catholic priest soldiers, Father Emil Kapaun. He served during the Korean War. Obviously, it lasted from 1950 to 1953. Our goal was to defeat the communists and unite Korea. We failed in that goal, but unlike Vietnam, we were able to fight to a stalemate and did not allow the communists to take over South Korea. And just as a side note, all the Democrats that just nominated Madami the Commie in New York City as their mayor, the guy they're running for mayor in the general election, and it looks like he's going to win. Those young Democrats need to spend a week in North Korea and spend a week in South Korea and see why so many brave Americans died fighting the evil of communism. Now, with that said, I'm going to tell you about servant of God. He actually has a cause for sainthood, so pray. If you're inspired by this man, please pray for his sainthood. Servant of God, Father Captain Emil Kapaun. I'm going to read you the words from the Army themselves, the people who knew him best. Among recipients of the Medal of Honor, Father Kapaun's story is, in itself, wholly unique, wholly different. He didn't charge a pillbox. He didn't defeat an enemy battalion or brigade or division by himself. Rather, Father Kapaun's only weapons were his steely defiance that inspired his fellow prisoners of war. The words he spoke, which brought comfort to the soldiers with whom he served, and a simple piece of purple ribbon that he wore around his neck, a mark of his chaplaincy, his priesthood. But don't make no mistake, Father Kapaun was a soldier, and a soldier in the purest, in the truest sense of the word. This is from the former Secretary of the Army, John McHugh. And then I'm just going to read his actual citation. And when you get a Medal of Honor, you get any medals, you get a citation while you're getting the medal. So this is his Medal of Honor citation. The President of the United States, authorized by Act of Congress, March 3rd, 1863, has awarded in the name of Congress the Medal of Honor to Chaplain Captain Emil J. Kapaun, United States Army, for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life, above and beyond the call of duty. Chaplain Emil J. Kapaun, while assigned to Headquarter Company 8th Cavalry Regiment, 1st Cavalry Division, distinguished himself by extraordinary heroism, patriotism, and selfless service. Between November 1st and 2nd, 1950, during the Battle of Unsun, Kapaun was serving with the 3rd Battalion of the 8th Cavalry Regiment. As Chinese communist forces encircled the battalion, Kapaun moved fearlessly from foxhole to foxhole under direct enemy fire in order to provide comfort and reassurance to the outnumbered soldiers. He repeatedly exposed himself to enemy fire to recover wounded men, dragging them to safety. When he couldn't drag them, he dug shallow trenches to shield them from enemy fire. As Chinese forces closed in, Kapan rejected several chances to escape, instead volunteering to stay behind and care for the wounded. He was taken as a prisoner of war by Chinese forces on November 2nd, 1950. Once inside the dismal prison camps, Kapan risked his life by sneaking around the camp after dark, foraging for food, caring for the sick, and encouraging his fellow soldiers to sustain their faith and their humanity. On at least one occasion, he was brutally punished for his disobedience, being forced to sit outside in sub-zero weather without any garments. When the Chinese instituted a mandatory re-education program, Kapan patiently and politely rejected every theory put forth by the instructors. Later, Kapan openly flouted his captors by conducting a sunrise service on Easter morning, 1951. When Kapan began to suffer from the physical toll of his captivity, the Chinese transferred him to a filthy, unheated hospital where he died alone. As he was being carried to the hospital, he asked God's forgiveness for his captors and made his fellow prisoners promise to keep their faith. Chaplain Kapan died in captivity on May 23rd, 1951. Chaplain Emil J. Kapan repeatedly risked his own life to save the lives of hundreds of fellow Americans. His extraordinary courage, faith, and leadership inspired thousands of prisoners to survive hellish conditions, resist enemy indoctrination, and retain their faith in God and country. His actions reflect the utmost credit upon him, the 1st Cavalry Division, and the United States Army. And last but not least, this is from General Raymond T. Adorno when he inducted him to the Hall of Heroes. The true story here is that Chaplain Kapan ministered until the end, giving the last rites to a dying prisoner, writing the Our Father and Hail Mary on a scrap of paper which he gave to another prisoner, and in his final hour, hearing the confession of yet another fellow prisoner. His fellow soldiers, for whom he gave his last dying breath, meant more to him than life. There is no greater love than a man lay down his life for his friend. Thank God for servant of God, Emil J. Kapan. God bless and stay Catholic.